The season is finally fucking over. Jets finish it off, beating the Dolphins, and we talk GM and head coach talk. Up next.
Hey, New York Jet fans from all around the world. Welcome to Laugh Through the Turbulence, a New York Jets podcast. The show that delivers you all your Jets content. Here are your hosts, John, Adam, and Monty. All the best to the New York Jet fans. J-E-T-S, Jets, 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 go Jets.
I did that intro so good, man.
Every time.
I knew I had to
single
say it for the
time.
joke because you guys are like doing
Jesus
something.
Christ.
Guys.
We understand.
I have a theory on how this season went really bad that kind of came to my mind in the stadium, if that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ever since Aaron Rodgers donned a throwback-related jersey, so either the 80s jerseys or the ones before, the Jets have been poor. However, he only wore our new version of the jerseys one time in that preseason game, and he did really well. You know?
Maybe. Yeah, that's definitely it.
Maybe that's it. But, yeah, that's it.
That's your theory?
30-20. We finished with a W and 5-12. A 5-12 record. Jesus Christ.
5-12. I don't even want to show that much. I mean, just the season's fucking over. Thank fucking God. Just what a disaster of a season. And I got a little emotional being at the game because it's my last time with those season tickets, you know? Unless something drastically changes, like either I win the lotto or, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, listen,
God.
if you're still even watching Jets football, it doesn't matter in a stadium, from the TV in your car, from a phone, from I don't care where. If you're still watching this dumpster fire bullshit at this point, you deserve a fucking medal, and you are more loyal than a dog that gets left on the side of the road, you know, and finds its way home. It's just, it's like taking everything for me not to punch a hole in my screen right now. You know, just when I think about like the disaster that has been, Jets football in 2024. So, congrats if you're still here, you listening at home.
Yeah. And if you're still wearing Jet shit. I also had a theory. If your girlfriend questions your loyalty to her, just tell her that you're a Jets fan.
That exactly.
Like,
conversation over.
No way that dude would cheat on me.
Conversation over. Yeah, like, baby, you're always looking at the other girls, baby. I'm a Jets fan. That's it.
Yeah.
What's she gonna say at that point? I get it.
All right. What were you guys' thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was watching this game, and I've seen people say this on social media and other outlets, and I felt the same thing when I was watching it, just generally speaking. I feel like that was the first time from, opening whistle to closing whistle where the Jets looked like they were having fun playing football since the Texans game, right? Like they were actually having fun. Everybody was involved. It was, it was just good to see them jumping around, getting after it, right? I texted our group chat during the game, amazing last game of the season, going to go 5-12, and they finally start forcing turnovers, right? Like, I think they turned them over on 3 consecutive drives, and so it's just, I think that's just kind of like a microcosm of the season, right? Too little, too late. Hassan Reddick coming in, too little, too late. Devontae Adams, too little, too late. 4 turnovers last game of the season, too little, too late. Right, so
Saleh getting fired too late.
Yep.
Joe Douglas getting fired too late.
Yep.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, everything that just kind of like summed everything up. But with that said, I mean, there were some, good performances. Garrett got to his 100 catches, so that's 3 consecutive seasons with 100 or more catches, which is amazing. You had Joe Tippmann. As we were talking about, before we started recording, played every snap of this season, which is incredible for an offensive lineman, especially a center. The offensive line as a whole played well. So there were some encouraging signs to see. And beating the Dolphins is always a good thing. I just really, really wish that the Chiefs had beaten Denver, so the Jets would have been the ones to knock Miami out of the playoffs.
That would have been fun, yeah.
That would have been sweet. But with that said, it's always nice to get a victory over the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill said he was out after the game. Then they had a productive conversation afterwards, and he said he's fine. It's because nobody wants him, right? But yeah, I think, listen, high note to end the season. They did the same thing last year. The Jets are 1-0 in 2025, so that's a good start to the year.
Jesus Christ. Didn't we say this last year too?
Had the same exact thing last year, right? 1-0, same exact kind of win.
You said it on the podcast too.
Yeah, we did.
Like we're undefeated.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of where my impression. Some good performances, nice to beat the Dolphins, and on a high note. But overall, disappointing is the understatement of the year. Just a miserable season.
Does this mark the 1-year anniversary of the show?
I think it's right around here.
It's coming up in February. We started in February.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like this game was like watching, like, it's like you're going to an MMA fight and like the fight sucks, but like two guys are fighting in the parking lot and they're like fat and drunk. Because, like, it's entertaining to watch two guys beat the hell out of each other, but then you see there's just no skill there. It's completely meaningless. You didn't bet on it. And, I mean, it's a little bit of fun, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not what you wanted ultimately. But, hey, Aaron Rodgers' 500th career touchdown pass to, it's to Devontae, right?
Yeah, no, it was the Conklin.
Oh, it's a Conklin. That's what broke it. Yeah. So great.
Dude, needed one more Garrett Wilson catch for a parlay to hit. You guys saw, I shared it with you guys, right? It was pretty well structured, right? It was Garrett 4+ catches, and a lot of things worked out really well in that. Like,
yeah. Too bad he couldn't do it on a team that's been relevant within the last decade.
We haven't been relevant for the last decade.
That's what I'm saying. Too bad he can't do it on a team that was relevant.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Dolphins.
I was talking about us, talking about with us. But I mean, he had and Rodgers. Speaking of Rodgers, good game. What was his? He went 23 for 36, 274 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick, 112 passer rating, 112.5. I mean, he had an impressive game. I mean, I'm happy for him. It just, it sucks that he's being held together by, wishful thinking and duct tape at this point.
I will say that pick really wasn't totally on him. I mean, it was a tipped up ball. Line. Actually, interesting enough about him, he ended with the 5th lowest turnover worthy throw rate of the year.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, listen, he's still Aaron Rodgers, right? He's still extremely accurate. We'll get into it, on our next episode, which is, where we talk about the failures of this year and stuff like that. But, I have some stuff on like what he did wrong and stuff. But like, as for the positive side, like he's still very accurate. He's still very smart when it comes to, decision making and football. So like, I'm not surprised by him, not throwing, but he's also a little bit gun shy too. So there's also that. I think Ashton Davis deserves a fucking medal for two picks in the same game. I mean, has anyone even done that this year?
No.
No, right?
Eccles?
I know he has 2 on the season.
He has 2 on the season, not in a single game.
I thought Eccles got 2 in the Will Levis game.
No.
I think that was the first one. I think that was the first interception. That's why it was noteworthy. But I don't know. You could be right. Yeah. But I'll be honest. He's probably just trying to audition for next year because half that team is going to be gone. Just like our New Year's resolutions. It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about that defensive unit, but I mean, there are some bright spots too. I mean, we got, Will McDonald, he finished with 10.5 sacks. So, thank God for that. Yeah, you won your bet for
easily too, because it was really early in the year that he just like whoop. No.
He just blew up. Yeah.
No Pro Bowlers and no Pro Bowlers on this team.
Yeah, no pro, which I get,
Good.
but I mean,
it's good for contract renegotiations.
Good.
Yeah.
They deserve good. They deserve it. That's what we deserve because none of these guys played like Pro Bowl talent, in my opinion. So I'm kind of happy about that, especially for contract reasons, like you said, John.
I will say this: I think Garrett got a little robbed on that one.
I was gonna say Garrett is the only one that could make a case.
Yeah, but he just didn't have enough.
Flowers was the one that didn't deserve it.
Yeah, that was nonsense, Zay Flowers.
Well, that's just because Lamar had such a good season. So by extension, somebody on that freaking Ravens offense, had to be the recipient of all those passes.
And 9 Pro Bowlers, right? And 9 fucking Pro Bowlers.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you win, right? I mean, you win
you're gonna get Kyle Hamilton, I think Roquan made it. Humphreys got in, I believe.
Yeah,
they were not short of any Pro Bowlers.
What I'm saying was someone had to be the recipient of Lamar's Pro Bowl, production. It didn't just all. Yeah, it's rare that a quarterback is a Pro Bowler and none of his receivers are even in the race for it. You know what I mean?
Well, what about Josh Allen? There was only 2 Bills that made the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, I said it's rare, but yeah, Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen's just absolute beast, man. He just single-handedly walked me into the fantasy playoffs with that.
I hate admitting it. He's so good.
Did you win any leagues this year, Monty, Mr. Fantasy Football? There,
I did not. I didn't win any leagues.
Adnan, did you win any fantasy leagues this year?
I lost in the finals and lost in the playoffs.
Okay, so that's a no. No, just yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay. I was in 4. I won 2, and I lost 1 final.
Okay. So you lost 2.
I lost my voice at your party, Monty, because we did New Year's together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how do we want to do this? Because, obviously we have a very big episode coming. We're going to break down the whole Jets roster and what we want to keep and where we want to go. It's coming up in another week. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you'll definitely get the updates on that on YouTube. And if you buy the swag, you will also have we'll definitely have better odds of everything kind of working out in that way.
And John will give you a handy.
I don't mind doing the actual likes, comments, and subscriptions. At least it's for a good cause. But okay, I mean, I guess the real question is how we're going to fix this Jets unit, right? And I mean, the first part of this whole puzzle is definitely going to be the front office, correct? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to decide eventually, basically on what they are and what their identities are, is going to determine essentially what this team identity is going to be forward and what we want to do at a very important position, which is quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to quickly interject for a second, when you say front office, do you mean in tandem with the head coach, right? Because they have to be in
GM and head coach.
You know what I mean?
Head coach. Okay. That you got to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's going to be fixed first, or that can be touched first. Because there's no one to basically cut anybody at this point, right?
Yeah.
Or make any roster moves, right? So what I was able to do, and we will probably share this at some point. I did a little Excel work the other day, today, in preparation for this show. And basically, I have 2 tabs here, and eventually, maybe I'll share the image. And I'm sure somebody somewhere is gonna look at this and be like, "My God, this is so clean and so good." But basically, what I did,
no one is gonna do that, John.
Nobody's gonna do that.
You don't think so, dude? I think this is great, though.
John is always John needs so much affirmation. So much affirmation.
You can blame my parents for it, but this is a good view, right? I'm saying you guys can see the screen very well, right? So
I'm gonna buy John one of those Tesla androids, and I'm gonna program it to just pat him on the back.
Just pat him on the back and compliment him all day.
If he takes a poop, great job, John. Sips a sip of his coffee. You killed it.
I took 2 great poops today.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to recap basically the 6 GMs that have been interviewed thus far, and there's no one else.
That bigger? Can that be bigger or more?
It is why I fucking asked the fucking question, dude. I was like, is it big enough? All right,
dude. I was too busy making fun of you. What the fuck? You can't ask me questions while mid joke.
All right,
Oh,
GM
man.
Even
experience.
if it was a bad joke.
The years with team, I guess we can do that a little bit. Years with team too. Yeah, okay. Team, I can make smaller.
Last team
Okay.
can be smaller. You could just like make that last.
Yeah, I could do that.
There you
This is
go.
great
Perfect.
preparation. All right, let me zoom in a little bit.
One more.
How's that now?
One more.
One more?
Yeah, bro. I'm geriatric over here. You not see my giant glasses I had on before
All
we
right,
started?
all right, asshole. All right, here we go. So there's been 6 candidates interviewed,
Sure.
right? We're gonna start with Thomas Dimitrov. I'm just gonna list them out, right? And kind of what their little resume is. This is a quick snapshot for Jets fans out there who are fucking retarded.
Mhm.
First off, you're retarded for being a Jets fan, but
Yep.
it's okay. Like us. But Thomas Dimitrov,
Mentally
he has an
challenged.
interview. He
Yeah,
has
don't-
GM experience, okay? His last job, he was the GM of the Atlanta Falcons for 13 years, okay? And he's with the organization for 13 years and was their GM from 2008 through 2020. Yeah, 2020. I think that would be right. Before that, he was director of scouting with the Patriots, and he had a couple other roles before that, and he was the director of scouting for their last 2 years there, which would, it's a big deal. Then you have John Robinson, who was also interviewed, was a GM. He was the GM of the Titans for 7 years. And before that, he was director of player personnel at Tampa. Okay. Then you have Lewis Reddick, who has no GM experience, but he was interviewed. And he's been on ESPN's panel for a good while, but he does have experience in the back office. He was the director of player personnel in Philadelphia for 4 years, and he also had pretty much the same position in Washington for 3 years prior. Okay, Alex Hallaby interviewed, not a GM, but he was the assistant GM in Philadelphia for the last 2 years, and before that, he was VP of football operations, and he had a couple other like smaller roles in there too. I think it was ops and strategy, basically. He was also a player personnel guy and all that stuff. Then you got Mike Borgonzi, who is the assistant GM in Kansas City for 4 years, and he was director of football ops prior to that. And he's basically been riding the coattails of everything's great in Kansas City because we have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? And then you got Ray Farmer, who's the last one, who was a GM. He was the senior personnel exec. He's a senior personnel executive for the Rams for the last 4 years. And he does have experience as a GM with the Browns for 2 years, although it wasn't a good time for Cleveland.
No, it was not. And just to interject there about Bergonzi, he actually predates both Reed and Mahomes, so he kind of helped oversee that change or that upgrade for them. By the way, they've been a really good team
in Kansas City for forever.
They've been good for a while though. Like going back to 1990, they haven't gone more than a couple of seasons at a time without making the playoffs, without being relevant. Like their record is just crazy.
Well, yeah, they've been since Andy Reid's been there, and I guess prior to that, who was the coach there prior? I can't even remember. Either way, they had Alex Smith years for a while, right? And even before that, remember a little flash of Matt Castle? Remember when he had that 1 year in New England where they didn't make the playoffs at 11-5 because and Matt Castle looked like a genius, and Dwayne Bowe had that monster year.
Yeah,
you guys remember that monster Dwayne Bowe year? And that was also what was Dante Hall?
Dante Hall,
years. Yeah,
Romeo Crennel.
Wow, it was Romeo Crennel. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, but they've had good. Kansas City's a well-run organization, and they were. I remember in the early 2000s, like they just hit on running back every fucking year. You know what I mean?
It was Jamal Charles.
And, he was so good.
Priest. I'm talking about Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes, Charles. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think if we're looking at this list, who they've interviewed so far, I would say, in my opinion, I think Dimitrov is number 1 for me, and then Borgonzi's number 2. The rest of them, I can take or leave them. You know what I mean? I think you're bringing. So one of the things that I want to say about these hires, GM, head coach, whatever it is, for once, or I know the names. I think we all know the names. They'll all be familiar. But I think the one trait that I'm looking for from these guys is aggressiveness, right? I want aggressive guys. I want an aggressive head coach. I want an aggressive GM. And Thomas Dimitroff is that guy. Like he made the Julio Jones trade.
He built that Super Bowl team.
Yeah, and he made an unheard of trade.
I never won a Super Bowl too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and you look at he was the first guy to really trade up aggressively for a receiver. Look at what Julio Jones did, right? So I think like he's the kind of guy that I'd want making these big decisions because I'm sick and tired of Joe Douglas, slow playing. I have my value, and if I don't get my value, screw you, right? I want a guy that's going to say, hey, you know what? We need a guy. We're going to go get him.
We gotta pay for this guy. Fine. For the most part, we're going to make good moves. He didn't like put them in too bad a cap hell, you know.
Right. No, but that's my point, right? Make the right moves, but make aggressive ones. Don't just sit there and wait until the third day of free agency to start signing people. Like I want to see aggressiveness. I want to see a head coach that's not going to be, a race to 17. Defense first, right? If you get a guy like Aaron Glenn, he needs to have an aggressive plan for the offense, right? Yeah. So I think that's my big thing is I want aggressiveness in these hires.
Real quick, by the way, just to kind of throw in too. So there are some guys that are kind of still that are being considered that are still, on the track that aren't on this list. Like John Eric Sullivan from the Packers. He was, I think he's like vice president of football operations or player development, something like that. I'm with any Packers, higher because they know how to build. As long as he's bringing that mentality here, big fan of that. I think Joe D started to try to build that way and got away from that, and that was a big problem. Obviously, there's reasons for that, which we'll get into next episode. Another one is Mike Greenberg from Tampa, the AGM. He's done a lot of really good things with the cap there. He's kind of a little bit considered like the architect of why that team's been successful, a lot these past few years, obviously, besides Tom Brady. Before
that they were good too. Yeah, they're good before that too.
But he's been instrumental in kind of bringing that team to them being a relevant franchise over these past little half decade, a little more than a half decade now. So I think he's another good one I would consider. But just to kind of piggyback on what Adnan says, for me it's Dimitroff, Bergonzi. They're kind of neck and neck. Greenberg and John Eric Sullivan are kind of like another tier down, and then I'm not really interested in anyone else.
Same. I don't know about the guy from the Eagles. I don't know, man. After Joe Douglas, I'm gonna take a pass.
He's the last guy that I wouldn't hate completely.
Fair.
I wouldn't love him, but he's just Joe Douglas again.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, those
hair.
Yeah,
Joe Douglas with hair. Who you liking, John?
Yeah, Dimitroff's the one for me. And the reason for it is because of his work in sports analytics since he's left the Falcons. He's with that hedge fund guy, and they're like doing a lot of stuff there. And the Jets are really behind the times there. I mean, they have been behind the times there. I mean, they're depending on Madden ratings for fuck's sakes.
Good point. Good fucking point, bro.
Good not. Right. Meanwhile, Jerry Jeudy, congratulations on a Pro Bowl season with fucking dog shit at quarterback. Holy shit. Think about that. Jerry Jeudy just pulled a near Josh Gordon year in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But a lot of that was with my guy, Jameis.
They would have had Jeudy from the start instead of Mike Williams working into it, right?
Yeah, and instead of Lazard, Lazard was good to start the season, but then he was useless because he was hurt.
Oh, but they still would have had Jeudy under contract,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They would have had Jeudy under contract, so then you could have moved. There wouldn't have been too much of a need to push for Devontae at the time.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had Devontae, I don't think.
Maybe. He might have still done it.
I doubt. No way, man. You're not putting that many resources into the receiver room.
For a while, there was 4 of them. There was Devontae, Garrett, Mike, and Lazard.
Yeah, but Mike isn't Mike, and Mike hasn't been Mike. That's why we were
Yeah,
able to get
Lazard
Mike.
is just
And
Lazard's bizarre.
Lazard sucks.
Yeah,
He had a
no,
touchdown. He had a touchdown last week. He had a touchdown this weekend though, so good for him.
he
But
did, he
he'll go
did.
somewhere else and do something. I guess I don't know. Highest
Yeah.
drop rate in the league. Fucking bum.
It's crazy. Did you see what I think it was PFFs. I forgot who it was, but someone announced that Alex Kappa got the Triple Crown this year.
I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see this? It was Monty.
Wow.
Do you know what we're talking about?
No, I didn't see that.
It was like
he gave up the most sacks, most pressures, and one other one, most highest pressure rate or something like that.
Yeah,
it was just the worst. Yeah, the three worst. He was the worst offensive lineman in NFL history.
That's fantastic.
They paid a lot for him too.
They
actually,
did.
I remember they did because they got him from Tampa originally.
Yeah, he was. I wanted the Jets to sign him. He was a highly regarded free agent.
Yeah, you're right. We were, but this is before the podcast. Okay, so I guess from this, we're pretty much in board. Let's say we don't get Dimitrov, right? Because everyone's kind of on board on Dimitrov, right?
Yep.
Who would you settle for from this group? Borgonzi?
Borgonzi immediately.
Okay, cool. Now we get into the fun stuff, the head coach shit. Now this spreadsheet's a little bit different because basically what I did was this is per the Jets website on who they interviewed and who was scheduled and who's requested. And Aaron Glenn apparently just did finish his interview today, so let me just it was virtual, so let me cross that off. Okay, but and also Jeff Ulbrich is here too because he's scheduled for an interview apparently, even though there's no fucking way he gets the fucking job, right? There's just no fucking way he gets the fucking job.
It's the Jets. There's always a way.
Yeah.
Right. But I did a couple things here. One, I put whether or not they're offensive minded or defensive minded, right? And I did that based on any little experience that they had here. I mean, just put no fucking way here. Mm-hmm. No fucking way. There we go. Better. That's a column.
Can we put that next to Rex Ryan too?
I'm not going to just because it's still a possible. It's like a realistic.
I know.
Like the difference between Ulbrich, the difference between Ulbrich is a possibility and Ryan is a possibility. Is that Ryan's an actual possibility, and I think Woody's smart and not that dumb to bring him back, Ulbrich, right?
Correct.
Anyway, we got whether or not they're interviewed, right? So basically, the Jets have interviewed already. Vrabel, Sexy Rexy, I'm going to call him that. Matt Nagy, Ron Rivera, Aaron Glenn. Ulbrich scheduled, and then the rest of these guys are requested. Josh McCown, Joe Brady, Brian Flores, Arthur Smith, Bobby Slowick, Spagnuolo, Vance Joseph, Darren Rizzi, and Brian Greasy. Okay? And you got the list here on who's offensive minded and who's defensive minded, and also who's got head coaching experience and who doesn't, right? So the guys that are, let's call it offensive minded and have head coaching experience, it's only Matt Nagy, which is interesting.
No, Arthur Smith.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, Arthur Smith too, but it's requested right now. Okay, you also have their winning percentages next to them, right? It's kind of amazing that Ulbrich's not the worst one on this list per winning percentage, which is except if he had lost the game, then he would have been the worst, right? Yeah. But Spags has actually got the lowest winning percentage of the group. And mind you, when he took over the Rams, and by the way, it was St. Louis Rams. Kurt Warner was gone. And they were basically heading towards a full rebuild. And that's when the Rams were really bad for a while. And then they made that RG3 trade and they kind of fixed the franchise with Jeff Fisher. Who's Mr. 8-8, right? When it comes to coaching.
Yeah, he's a no for me, Spags.
He's a no for you, Spags. That's fine. But then you got some other interesting names on here. Ron Rivera, Aaron Glenn is starting to get a lot of buzz, especially since he turned down the Patriots for an interview today.
It's because he's a Jet, man. I mean, listen, I like the guy.
I don't like that, though.
He's not the best guy. He's just not the best guy for the job. And
why would you totally say that, though? Is it just because he hasn't had the coaching experience and he would be because his resume right now,
first-time coach, and Vrabel and Ron Rivera are still out there.
That's fair. Rivera and Ron Vrabel are good candidates.
I want no part of Rivera. You can't tell me anything about Ron Rivera. I want no part of that guy. And Vrabel, man, I don't know. I think it's between the Pats and the Raiders. I really do. And I think he kind of just interviewed with the Jets. He interviewed with the Jets first. I think, to light a fire under the Patriots, and then they made their moves, and then now that the Raiders, fired their head coach, their GM, I think it's between those two. I don't think Vrabel is a real possibility. I would love him; he's my first choice. But I think if you can get Vrabel, I'm really starting to come around to Aaron Glenn. And I feel like, everything that you read about him, you see his interviews, what he's doing with that Detroit defense, especially on Sunday against the Vikings, where they're decimated with injuries and they played a hell of a game. I just think like his big thing is he's going to have to, like we said, have a really solid plan for the offense. If he can't communicate that, then you don't want him, right?
And I think yeah. Well, why wouldn't you just get Flores? Flores is just as good at defense, if not better. He has head coaching experience, and he's on a team that's doing even better than the Lions right now. Like, for me, like that's
doing better on defense than the Lions are.
Doing better on defense than the Lions are. Yes.
Yeah, the Vikings are the number one defense in the league.
So
right now.
if he's not the best defensive minded guy, he's not the most experienced coach. Listen, I like the guy, and again, if all our options are exhausted, we can do it worse than Aaron Glenn for sure. But for me, if I'm going to go Aaron Glenn, I'd rather Ben Johnson over Aaron Glenn, just because I want this team to finally be an offensive minded.
Ben Johnson declined an interview with the Jets.
Oh, he did.
He doesn't want to interview.
Oh,
so
okay. I didn't know that.
Think like out of this list though, like man, Joe Brady is another guy. I know he doesn't have head coaching experience, but man, he was the offense. He's been an offensive coordinator for a while. He was Joe Burrow's co-offensive coordinator at LSU when they won a national championship. Like, he could be a real good guy. It's just these inexperienced guys, they got to do something that Sean McVay did, right? When he got his first coaching job, he hired Wade Phillips. You got to bring in someone experienced to help you out.
I'm going to say something about Joe Brady, okay? He was an OC once already, okay? It was in Carolina, and this is before Bryce Young.
Yeah, they weren't.
Yeah, good. But hold on. That was a Matt Rule was the coach. That was an untenable situation. Look at what he's doing in Buffalo.
Okay. You know who the quarterbacks
he also has
quarterbacks were from Carolina Panthers during that time?
Cam Newton.
Nope. Try again.
No, this is after Cam. Oh, so then who? Oh, Darnold.
Yep. And
Darnold and Baker. Yeah.
Baker, who are both good elsewhere without him. And that was that's kind of my thing too, is like, I think he might only be good with good quarterbacks. Like, he's because Joe Brady, the big question with him is he good because of Josh Allen, or is Josh Allen good because of him? And I think it's probably a lot more likely that Josh Allen is good because Josh Allen is good, not because Joe Brady kind of took him under his wing or did whatever. So he might be kind of a Gase situation, not as bad, but kind of the situation where he's riding on the coattails of a really good QB or multiple really good QBs. He can work with those guys, but you would have to ensure me that the Jets were going to lock down a hands down great QB, and then I could deal with Joe Brady.
Well, you know what I think, but I think you can say that about anyone. Look, Bill Belichick has a losing record without Tom Brady. He's a loser coach without Brady.
Yeah,
right? So you can say that about anybody, that you give him a great quarterback, they'll be great. Ken Dorsey got fired with Josh Allen, right? So Ken Dorsey wasn't able to get it done with Allen. So now you got a guy who's really crushing it with a great quarterback. Like, that's not easy either, So I think Brady's.
I mean, O'Connell did it with freaking Darnold, and Pete Carroll did it with Geno Smith, and
dude, listen, I totally get it. It is possible, right? And I think Brady could be one of those guys. If you look at this list, I mean, offensively, right? Do you want Arthur Smith? No. Bobby Slowick had a down year. Do you really want Nagy? He's kind of interesting, but I don't know about that.
I will
Brian
say this,
Greasy.
I want nothing to do with Arthur Smith with a
Yeah,
passion.
Yeah,
nothing to
I
do with
also
Arthur
do.
Smith.
I don't want. Listen, I know we don't run the ball enough, but we don't need to run it Arthur Smith much.
Yeah.
Like the
It's
guy
not
just
just that, dude. Like, there's nothing there that's proven to me that like this is good, right? With Arthur Smith, right?
No,
right.
100%.
Like,
Listen. Yeah.
what is proven good there, right? It like looks like their offense has regressed, right? Since Russell got acclimated with it. So like what like this is what I was gonna do. I was gonna say let's give a voting scale on every one of these candidates and kind of just like where we feel.
Sure.
Like Arthur Smith for me, and it's 1 to 10. 1 being like you don't want anything to do with this fucking guy, right? And 10 being, yeah, I want this guy now, right? I would give Arthur Smith a fucking 2 because I just don't think he's anything special.
Yeah, I give him a 3, but yeah, that's really low for me too.
What about you, Adnan? Anything?
On Arthur Smith or in general?
Arthur Smith.
Yeah, Arthur Smith is a 0 for me. I don't want anything. I would rather have,
Zero.
John or Monty coach than Arthur Smith.
All right. So Vrabel's a 10.
Top, right? I'm going to go 10 with Vrabel, right?
Vrabel's a 10, right? I mean, based on what's available, right?
Yes, 10, right?
Because there are other coaches
10
I'd
for
rather
sure.
have, but he's 10 based on what's available. Rex,
So let's talk about sexy Rexy, who's
He is-
the most enthusiastic about coaching this team amongst all candidates that are here. And
Yeah.
he is also a 3 for me.
He's a 0 for me.
Actually, yeah, give him a 0 for me because because he at least Arthur Smith has coached in the league in the last 15 fucking years.
Yeah,
You got to be kidding me, bro. Like this is the best of the best. You cannot just leave something and come back to it 15 years later and be great, let alone something that is the top 1% of the top 1% of people to ever do this thing.
Right.
So that's what the NFL is. That's what you're asking Rex Ryan to do. And I think that's absolutely insane.
And coaching is so much better now than it is since
with
when he left.
With the analytics and all that.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even good. He wasn't even good when he left.
No,
his last
Well,
2 seasons across 2 different teams, he sucked ass. So
hear me out. Hear me out. One thing to counter, because this is about dialogue here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Rex would do with our defense?
I don't know.
I mean, listen, here's the thing.
What do you think? What do you think Rex would do with Sauce Gardner?
But
I don't know if I care.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't care because the offense will be so bad, right? Rex, I've said this a million times about Rex. He would rather punt on first down and play defense the whole game. That's his mentality, and grounded pound, like get out of here. No point.
Right. I'm going to give Rexy a 4. A 4.
Okay.
I'm going to give him a 4 because I think he's a better candidate than Arthur Smith. I think a lot of what you're saying is right, but at the same time, like he does bring accountability to the locker room.
All right, let's try to power through some more of these because I gotta
run. Matt Nagy, he's currently the OC in Kansas City, and he was a head coach in Chicago. And I think in between those two, he was the passing game coordinator for Kansas City. I could be wrong on that.
Bad record of developing QBs, benefiting off of Mahomes and Reed. I know he's barely had a winning record with the Bears, but my gut tells me no. He's a 3 for me.
So I would say a 5 for Nagy, only because he made the playoffs twice in Chicago with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. Yeah. Right, so he's a little bit of an interesting one, and he's been in that Kansas City environment for so long. He's a 5 for me.
I'm giving him a 6, just for similar reason. Also, because he has experience doing this, right?
All right. I'll say a 4.
All right, there you go. All right, Ronnie, Riverboat Ron, as they call him, because he likes to go for it on 4th down.
6.
He's a 0 for me.
6. He's done it with poverty franchise. He's dealt with poverty franchises and shitty owners. He is a non-offensive mind. He won Coach of the Year. He knows what it's like to win. He's won as a player. He's made it to the playoffs. I'm on board.
I'm on board with that too. I'm going to give it a 6 as well. I'm trying not to be the highest one.
I don't love it. I'm not like, oh my God, Ron Rivera, but I'm definitely not as
Sir Aaron Glenn, who is a former Pro Bowler for the New York Jets and turned down the Patriot interview.
5.
I'm gonna say 7 for me.
I'm gonna go very high on this one. I'm giving it an 8. You know what? Actually, no. I'm gonna give it a 9 on this one, just relative, because
Wow.
you know what? Like, we don't get Vrabel. I'm good with Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
I'm good with Aaron Glenn, former player. Which demands respect. And I did watch a little bit of clips of Hard Knocks with the Lions and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way he talks to his team is very like accountability. And the Lions defense, they play with a fucking attitude, and I think you can get that out of the offense too. He'll pair up with somebody that's offensively gifted, but that I just see that going that way. All right, this is my first 0. Ulbrich.
Ulbrich's a 0.
0. Yeah.
We can move on. We don't even need to talk about him.
The interesting name, Josh McCown.
He's a 0 too. He needs to be OC. He would possibly be as OC, but as a head coach, too inexperienced.
Yeah, I would say a 2 for me, only because of the Jets connections and all that. But he needs a lot more experience, in my opinion.
He did fix Darnold. Helped fix Darnold.
That's all O'Connell, man. I love McCown, but that's all him.
I think you're right on that too. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a higher mark. I'm gonna give it a 4. And the reason for it is because I don't think he's gonna make a good head coach to start. But in the event that we do get paired up with Brian Flores, who I'd like to do next because they're both in Minnesota right now, I could see Flores being the head coach and then McCown being the offensive coordinator.
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that.
And for that reason, with Flores, I'm gonna give him a fucking 8.
Flores is another 6 for me. Because listen, Flores feels like part Saleh, part Gase. Like, he's a well-respected defensive guy, but also couldn't cut it as Miami's head coach. I'm not fully.
You're supposed to be about. Like,
I'm not.
Black man, stick up for your people.
I'm not. Hey, it's Flores. It's not. Johnson. But anyway, listen, with Flores, it's just I'm not super interested, unless like we lose out on a lot of people that are better than him. But he is good. He's proved himself this year, but I don't know. It's not my first choice.
What about you, Adnan? What do you give him, Flores?
I'm gonna give him a. I'm torn on this one. I'm gonna give him a 6. Only because I like Aaron Glenn a tick more. If you're gonna go on the defensive side, I'd rather Glenn than Flores.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right. Joe Brady. I'm giving this a 5. Honestly, I'm giving it a 5, and I'm probably gonna be lower than you guys. And it's the thing. Yeah, I think Josh Allen solves a lot of fucking problems, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't see shit in fucking Carolina. Yes, it's Carolina, but he did have. Did he have McCaffrey? He had McCaffrey for a little bit there. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He's I'm actually gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna go with a 5 too.
I'm gonna go on a 7 here. I've been a Joe Brady fan since he was at LSU. Yeah. I'm a big fan of his, so I'm gonna say 7 there.
All right, cool. Bobby Slowick.
Slowick, if this was a year ago,
yep.
going into the season, he would have been like an 8 for me. But now, with the problems they've had, I don't know. Maybe he's like a 4 now, 4 or 5, something like that.
I would probably give Slowick a 3. I mean, like Monty said, if this was after last season, he'd be a 7 or an 8. But he's regressed a lot this year.
Yeah, the reason why he's regressed, I believe Houston lost their fucking QB coach, and also that offense has been fucking injured all fucking year. They lost Diggs, they lost Tank.
They've had a lot of injuries.
Mixon was banged up at one point too.
They had a lot of injuries last year.
Yeah.
Dell got hurt. Collins got hurt. So I mean, that's not an excuse to me.
It's not, but
it is a little bit. It is a little bit.
Is a little bit. I'm gonna give him a 4. But yeah, I'm not. I told you guys that Stroud would regress last year, but okay, we got Spags
2.
2.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a 1 on him.
He sucks.
Yeah, I'm not. It's hard to say because Kansas City's defense is really, really fucking good. And like and he's got. You know how many Super Bowls Spags has won? He's won 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, but dude, you know what? I mean, look, real quick, it's just one of those things where some people were meant to be coordinators and not head coaches, and I think that spans. Just like Norv Turner. Norv Turner always had great
The
offense.
greatest offense I've ever seen, though, in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's offense in 07.
And again, that's great for a coordinator, you know?
Yeah, I know. I'm just making an argument. I'm giving it a 3. Okay, Vance Joseph is a name that's coming up. It's so fucking weird because Vance was originally the DC, then he became head coach for Denver. Then he got fired. He hopped around a little bit, and then he came back to Denver as their DC. And obviously, their defense is good again. But this would be my first 0. I'm going to give a 0 for Vance Joseph.
I didn't like what I saw in Washington. He had a lot of influence there. He was interim GM. And he couldn't make it happen. He had a lot of influence on that roster, didn't really do anything. I didn't like what happened. I see what the Broncos have done on defense, and that's nice and all, but I'm going to give him a 3.
I'm gonna speed round this. For the last 3, I'm giving them 0s. I want no part of Joseph, Rizzi, or Brian Greasy.
Yeah. The Rizzy thing was just so weird that he was.
Give me a 1 for Greasy.
A 1 for Greasy. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you're gonna give a 0 for Rizzy too, I guess, or It's so weird because Rizzy's specialty is actually special teams, which is but he had some defense. I almost put special teams here, but I looked further back and he does have some defensive coordinator work. It's just like. I just don't understand it at all. I mean, I'm trying to think when the Saints fired their coach and how the Saints improved. They did, but it's not enough for me too. I'm giving it a 2. And the last one is Greasy, which is so fucking interesting because he actually did the reverse of Lou Reddick, kind of, right? Greasy was working for ESPN, then he got a job working under Shanahan, right?
Yeah, that's why he's a 1.
Yeah,
I like that influence, of where he's been at. That's why it's not a 0 like Rizzi or McCown, who I think is only a coordinator. At least Greasy's a little bit older, a little bit more mature. I don't know.
Yeah, so basically, if you were to average all this shit out, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially, obviously, Vrabel's the 1, right? And then Aaron Glenn's are 2, Flores are 3, and I believe Matt Nagy's are 4 because Adnan had nothing to do with Ron Rivera. Yes, that's how it worked. Yeah, and then which is funny.
I mean, Joe
Brady would be our 4. Joe Brady would be our 4.
That's kind of how I see it, playing out anyway. But I mean, really, I just really want Vrabel, man.
Yeah, we really need Vrabel, man. I mean, if we don't get Vrabel, we're probably selling for Aaron Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like Aaron Glenn's a lock to be our coach, right? At this point.
Yeah, I mean, he said that he really wants the job and all that. I wouldn't hate it, But again, it's all going to depend on his offensive plan. If he can articulate and communicate a solid offensive plan, if he can get in a good offensive coordinator, I think it can work. He has a lot of Parcells influence, all that kind of stuff. He knows what it's like to be here in New York. So, you would do a lot worse, but it'll be interesting.
The other thing about Aaron that I love, I really fell in love with those Jets teams of those 90s, right? I mean, I remember he was a Jet when we were dog shit, weren't we? He was there early on.
Yeah.
Did Parcells bring him in, or was he originally? Because I thought he was with the team with Victor Green back in the day.
Yeah, no, he was before Parcells. I'm pretty sure
he was before Parcells, but under the tutelage of Parcells, basically, right? And I think that's when he got his Pro Bowls, right? If I could be wrong on that. Yeah, 97, 98, and 2002. That's when he got, and he's also on our all-decades team, of course. Yes, he was a Jet. He was a Jet ever since I can remember. Right, 1994, he was a rookie.
Yeah.
And he was our first-round pick actually too. On top of that, honestly, I would love. That would be a good story, kind of like the way it was with Rexy coming, because Buddy was our DC, right? He was here. He was one of our coordinators in our Super Bowl era team, right? So I would like that very much. It sucks because comes in, the pair, because it's going to be a pair, and it's going to be the first time we have a new head coach and a GM at the same timeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
Can we roll this in the final thoughts? Because I gotta head out.
fine, go ahead, Monty. Fucking rush us.
Yeah. Well, you did it two episodes ago, just for the folks at home. So, anyway, yeah. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm not hopeful because the Jets have too many things that they need to get right all in the same year. We need to get quarterback right. We need to get head coach right. We need to get GM right. It's just like a bad Netflix series. Like we're just, going to hate watch it into infinity, but it's not going to end up being satisfying. I hate, everything about this. I am not hopeful at all, but I'm trying to be hopeful just because, it's the Jets and I love our team and whatever. But, we haven't made the freaking playoffs since like Blockbuster was still open. So like, I don't know what kind of hope we can really have. John, you made the right thing by ditching those fucking season tickets. I don't know. Sorry to rain on the parade a little bit there. I mean, I know we're kind of being hopeful with all these hires and stuff, but reality is it's just too much to get right in too short of a time. But I hope we at least maybe get GM right, or coach, or at least one of these we can nail, and then that'll be good enough for us to at least not suck and get to the playoffs and be relevant. But it's probably just too much to ask from the Jets.
None.
Yeah, I think it's real frustrating to kind of be in the same exact spot we were last year. Just talking about the off season and what are they going to do? How are they going to fix this? It's the same old nonsense. Instead of talking about playoffs, we're talking about fixing the team. I think there are some interesting candidates, and it just, you gotta obviously, do your homework. I'm glad they're interviewing a lot of people. I know people say that that's crazy, but get all of the people in that you can, learn all that you can, and then kind of take it from there. I think they'll end up doing okay, at the GM and head coach spot, even if it's not Vrabel. I think there are a couple of other viable candidates. So definitely looking forward to it, and hopefully this gets wrapped up soon because I hate it when it drags out. But yeah, we'll discuss more at length next week in our deep dives, and then we'll take it from there.
Cool.
Yeah. And Monty, if you have to dip off, you can, because I'm going to take as long as I possibly can just to piss you off.
See ya.
See ya, Monty.
All right. I will just say this. The last time the Jets had the same timeline with GM and head coach was Bowles and McCagan. McCagan turned out to be a little bit of a disaster, but it was a quick fix, and we almost made the playoffs that year. And that was the best year I have seen as a season ticket holder of the Jets. I will say this. There's two things that each of these both turnovers are going to have in common. One, defensive playmakers and the existence of lots of real talent on the defense. Both that 2015 team and this team, 2015, I guess this would be 2025 team, right? There's so much talent on the defense, right? Like they can be top units very easily, and they just need a couple pieces to fix things, right? The big addition that year was Darrelle Revis, bringing him back, and that was his last good year, right? But pretty much everything that you would expect or you need for a defense to be good, it already exists on this defense. So that's one thing. The other thing, actually, there's three things. Sorry. The other thing, offensive line. It existed then. It was the tail end of what Tannenbaum had built with Mangold and DeBrickashaw, and that's really when the neglect of the offensive line happened. Although this offensive line has not been neglected when Joe Douglas was there. He tried to do so hard to fix it, and it looks like it's fixed because it's a top unit right now, and it's got 4 out of 5 people under contract for next year on that starting offensive line, including Fashanu, AVT, Tippmann, and John Simpson, right? So it's pretty much fixed there. And the other thing, there was a decent receiving core then going into that 2015 season. You had Decker already, so you at least had one guy, right? But now you have Adams and you have Garrett Wilson, right? So you have receivers, and you just got to figure out quarterback. But at least you have two options already right now that are in-house. You have Rodgers if you want to go that route. You have Tyrod Taylor if you want to move on from Rodgers and let Tyrod give it a shot as a bridge quarterback for a better QB draft. So there's a little hope there that it can be turned around pretty quickly with the right pairing of a GM and a head coach. That's what I'm trying to say. There may be fucking hope, or we may be vastly disappointed again next year like we always are. And we can all thank Woody Johnson for just the disaster of being a fucking disaster. He's a fucking piece of shit. Even when I sent my little fucking message in the Instagram or whatever, the only thing I could say is, Woody, you made me basically quit on coming to these games because it's just been such a clown show. It's hard to go to it. It's really hard to go to it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to go to it. I'm going to miss those tickets, man. There were some good times there, man. But they're also
it was
really
always
bad
fun.
times.
Yeah, it was fun to go, and it was, but at some point you just kind of have to, cut the cord, and we deserve better as fans, and can't keep supporting this until things turn around. So
it's that crazy ex-girlfriend that keeps cheating on you, right? The relationship.
Yeah, I mean it's an abusive relationship, no matter what it is, right? It's an abusive relationship, and sometimes you just got to get out of it.
Yep, and I am gonna do that. And before I do that, or right after I did that, which is now, you know what I did?
What?
I bought swag.
Laugh Through the Turbulence swag is now live and ready to make you look as good as Aaron Rodgers throwing a deep ball. Click in the bio to find out where to buy it. Get yours today and rep the green and white in style. And remember, wearing this swag doesn't make you look awesome. Actually, it increases our odds of the Jets winning. Well, maybe not, but it can't hurt to say that, right? Made probably from the finest child sweatshops from around the world that we do not endorse but still appreciate, buy our swag today. We're giving you free content. Now it's time to empty your pockets and buy the stuff you don't need. Don't have a job? Well, you've got a kidney, right? Sell it and buy our swag. See a defenseless old lady with a purse? Take her purse and pawn it and use the money to buy our swag. Got some money tucked away for your kid's college fund? Empty the account and buy our swag, because your kid is just going to waste that money on a gender studies major anyway. Buy our fucking swag, dude!